What's up, everybody? It's your boy C. Welcome back to another episode of The Pressure House. This is episode number 9, man. Today we're going to be talking about millwrights. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, J10.
Yeah, the greatest millwright in Texas, son.
And we have a special guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please, ma'am.
I'm Sarah Jones. I'm actually a millwright as well, I guess.
And most importantly, she's my sister. She's a Jones from the legendary Jones Millwright community.
All right.
Something like that.
I can see it. So today we're going to be talking about millwrights. And I guess my first question I have for y'all is, what is a millwright?
Let's hear it from the new journeyman.
Okay. Most people would just say that a millwright would be rotating equipment specialist or a precision mechanic, industrial precision mechanic, some would say. A lot of people in the chemical plants do not know what a millwright is. We work on anything that rotates, moves, spins, anything. I mean, we work in the chemical field, the petrochem field, the powerhouses. We work in airports. We work in nukes. We work in the warehouses for, beer plants, anywhere with conveyors. Of course, it's moving. We'll fix, maintain, repair, and we'll also just rebuild. A lot of us, people don't know that we're needed, but we're everywhere. And in order to keep things going, you kind of need us there.
Yeah, if the world were to spin on bearings, we'd be the one to fix it. You know what I mean?
Heard.
That's right.
Millwright is like a wide variety of things. The way it was explained to me whenever I first got in, we both following our father, Vernon Jones, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
My dad told me back in the day, because you have certain types, right? So you have guys that are like turbine mechanics, turbine hands. You got recip hands. Some guys do centrifugals, and then you got conveyor hands. Well, the way my dad explained it when he got in order to be a millwright, you're not just a professional turbine hand or a professional. Like, you do a little bit of it all. To where you can go in the field and you know what you're talking about on any of this shit. And eventually, to a time that you get so used to doing this that you can come up on something that you've never seen before, but you've seen all kinds of other pieces of equipment that kind of transfer, and you'll be able to take it apart, find out what was wrong and be able to rebuild it just off your knowledge of the other equipment that you've worked on. So, like, it's real hard for a turbine hand to go out and do, pump rebuilds or a regular maintenance mechanic in a chemical plant to go do a recip, so it all transfers on that level.
Yeah, I definitely remember something that Daddy would say is it's a craft of all trades. If we do it, if it needs to be done, we can definitely do it. So
it's safe to say it's a pretty old profession. Do y'all know about like the origins of what was the first millwrighting job?
It was. You want to take that?
So, I'll touch on a little bit. So I don't know what the first one was, but it started out with like mills, right? Like we righted the mills. Like whether it was grains, water mills, you know how you see them old houses back in the day with the big wheel that has the buckets to pick up water. Well, those were wooden. And back in the day, they would use like pig lard and fat and stuff to lubricate the moving equipment on them. It would be geared pieces, crunching up grains or whatever they were refining back then is how it originally started. And whenever it started getting at a bigger level and being an industry thing, back in the day, you had to be a master carpenter to become a millwright.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how it went. Like, you had to know the woodworking parts and everything like that in order to transfer into the mechanical metal end of it that it now became.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely the way that Dad had explained them to me. A lot of the tools back in the days were all wooden, like carpentry tools, because everything that rotated back then was all wooden, of course. And so again, like, just kind of piggybacking off of what Jason said, is that you had to be a master carpenter in order to do it. Definitely whenever things started getting more modernized and whatnot, and things started to be a lot bigger type of product, that's whenever machinery came involved, and that's what actually split between the carpenter side and the actual millwright side, is when you brought machinery into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. A lot of times I hear people talking about being a millwright, they bring up something called a union. I was just wondering if y'all could kind of go further into explaining what a union is, and are all millwrights union, or how does that work?
Go ahead and touch on that, Sarah.
A union is it's a brotherhood. It's a group that you have basically it's kind of like a government in itself that backs you. You have a president, a vice president, you have treasury, you have recording secretaries, you have officers of the house, you have bylaws, you have structure, you have constitutions that you have to abide by. And it's just like back in the day with the truckers union, it's the same thing. It's basically a backing of that's going to back the people and their members for fighting for the right wages for them, to make sure that they're going to get the right pay, that they're going to get the jobs that are needed, and they're not going to give the jobs to others rather than the people that are there first. Is to keep the money and the work within the area for them, just to help continue building us up rather than building off foreign areas. It is a huge thing. Not all millwrights, though, have to be union. There are non-union millwrights, but it does benefit a lot. You have a lot of good benefits that do come with being a union millwright. You have actual benefits. You have people that will fight for you. You are your own person. You don't have to rely. It's not a regular job.
Yeah,
it's a career, and these people will
representation.
Back you. Yes.
Yeah, so the best way I can explain it for people that have never even heard of a union. So like, if you're working non-union and you're in a plant and you mess something up, which everybody fucks up, right? So you mess something up, they're like, "Hey man, you're fired." Well, now they're gonna go tell everybody near and far that, "Oh, this guy fucked this up," and you might sit at home for months, weeks. You might have to find a new career. And you're out. We have the representation that if you mess up, that we all the way to lawyers. We have like legal representation, and we have VAs that will put you on a job. Like if you mess something up, and it was my bad type thing, you go home, you call your union representatives, your VAs, "Hey man, I need a job. I fucked up over here." They're gonna put you somewhere else. So you constantly have a job, and if somebody's trying to dog you or badmouth you, you have representation to be like, "No, these things happen. Here's you a new spot to try again." You know what I mean? Right. And they're there to help you up whenever you're down.
They're there to protect you.
So the thing I like about it is a union and the brotherhood, and down here in the South in Texas, it's not as strong as it would be up in the North.
Right.
But the good thing about being in Houston, Texas, we've developed such a large community that we are the strongest Southern local. Like it's almost like we're trying to get up there with them guys.
A lot of work.
So whenever all this stuff comes down on us, we have such a big group of people. It kind of it doesn't affect us.
Right. So, I mean, I hear nothing really but, pros as far as the union goes. What are some situations why somebody might even find themselves being a millwright without being in the union?
So are you asking how they would stumble upon this career without getting into the union, being a union millwright, how you would stumble into it?
Basically, yeah.
So a lot of times, man, it's a love, right? So you have to seek this out. It's like a hidden jewel. You have to find it. And normally the people that get into it and fall in love with it and stick with it, union or non-union, or people that are mechanically inclined, that have the brains and the knowledge and the love for building something up, pressing a button, watching it run, hearing it purr, you know what I mean?
Right.
And having pride in that I've built this. And if you do the maintenance on it, you change the oil when it's supposed to, it's gonna run for 60 years. You know, you'll find diesel mechanics, you'll find people from the military that built, you know, jets, planes, and you'll find, you know, guys that were in I forget what it's called in high school, in the small engine repair.
Right.
Like guys that get into this, or you just built the old Chevy with your dad, you know, when you were a kid, like we did with our dad. And luckily we did have our father to, you know, bring us right into it. But for me, it was more of, hey, I don't want you doing this. You're gonna go to college.
Right.
But whenever I went to college and it didn't work out, I tried to go to oil rigs, and then I was like, man, I had that itch because I did somewhat similar to this job with my dad on the weekends growing up. You know what I mean? We were pile driving, we were building old school cars, working on old tractors, and just having that wrench in your hand, you know, putting things together, pulling it apart, seeing what was wrong. It kind of transferred into the millwright, and I had that itch. So I was like, you know, whether he wants me to or not, I'm going to try.
Right.
So I went to the local, and they let me in. By the time Sarah got in, it was like, I mean, my son's doing it, my oldest son, my youngest son, and, you know, I'd like to see this young lady take over the world too. So we all tooled her up and got her ready to go. But that's my opinion on how you would get in, is being in love with it. You know what I mean?
All right. You bring up a good, interesting point. I would imagine there's not a whole lot of female millwrights.
There's not.
No.
And actually, so in our family, Sarah's not the first one either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad's oldest sister, or Aunt Linda, she was a millwright at a local 2232.
Yes.
She was a actual company, worked for a plant that I work at most of the time whenever she hired on. And she did that for a while before she became a teacher. But Sarah, how do you feel about, you know, the new step that we're taking towards women getting in the local?
I think it's great, actually. Being a woman and a single mother and having the ability to be able to come in and build a name for myself. Like I do have, and working, like he said, it's a love, like working with your hands and having the gratification and the knowing that I just did that. Like that's pretty sick, you know? And that's not something I ever would have thought that I would have done growing up. This was something that I definitely asked my father a long time ago. And because I am a single mom, he never wanted me to get into it. I don't blame him. But when I did, it opened up a lot of pathways for me. And being a single mom, I definitely feel that it can do a lot of things for women these days. There's a lot more stronger women out in this world that can provide a lot more. I mean, as a brotherhood and a unity and a union, brothers and sisters can work together and we can be just as strong, if not more powerful than what people think we can be. We have a lot to bring to the table as women. We pay a lot, very, very close to detail, like close attention to detail. And we are able to provide a different outlook than some people can. Especially if, you know, the job's getting tough, you know, you're getting to the end, you've got oil spraying out of a seal, you're trying to get this, your tools are spread out over here, you know, you've got people yelling at you, you've got your hands, you're like slipping tools everywhere. But if you have somebody that can just give you a different insight or a different way of going about it and thinking about it, rather than, you know, rush because you're pissed the fuck off, it can kind of like calm you down for a bit, and they can, okay, you're right, let's try it like this.
Right.
I mean, it's a good insight. But I do think that it's beneficial for women. I think it's good for everybody. It offers a lot for all of us. Like I say, it's a good thing. I mean, the more people we have working, the better it is for us in America in general. Let's just face it, today in these days, you're not going to be able to make it in a single income home. Like
Right.
not with a family. I mean, you got to be
Right.
making a shit ton in order to make that happen. So if you can have a power couple and your ladies just making as much as you and y'all can do it like that, fuck, y'all can take over the world.
Oh yeah.
Man, I was just thinking about something. This never came across my mind until I was hearing you talk. But like, as a man, whenever things do get critical and it is time, like the crunch time, and to finish up, and everything, and everybody's levels get high, tempers flare, people get angry, and that's whenever you mess up, right? And a woman naturally, y'all have a little bit of patience, and the nurturing of it. Like, hey guys, come on. Like, I could see that. Like, I could see you being like, hey, it's cool, breathe. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause a lot of the times, if I get so mad at something, I know something's gonna go wrong. So I'm gonna go walk away, go get a water real quick. Take a drink, and as I'm walking back, you go from seeing this when you're right here working on it, but when you're walking up on it, you see the whole picture around it, what may have went wrong. So, I mean, that is a good point, like for women to be there, because y'all have that calm nature about you.
Right.
Not necessarily Sarah. She,
I was going to say, don't get me wrong. We're not all like that. I
she's a
mean,
wild one.
things can get pretty ugly and pretty rough sometimes, you
Right.
know? And be like, hey, calm the fuck down. Let's do this together. But like, calm down. Because if
Right.
you keep acting like that, you're gonna mess it all up. This goes back to our name. This is your reputation on the line.
Right.
You start acting all wild, you start throwing shit on the deck, things are going to get rough, and you're really making yourself look bad. You're making your company look bad, and now you're making me look bad. So let's calm it down, breathe, take a breath, go get you some water real quick. I'll let me handle on this, and then come back and we can regroup. Regardless if it's leaking, it's going to keep leaking. So we're going to be fine.
All right.
Let's keep coming back, and we can put some oil soaks down, and we can get some brake clean, and we can clean this up. But you need to like chill the fuck out so we can get this done, because it's not going to get done properly if you can't calm down.
And that's how she talks. So
That is how I talk in real life.
so
Sorry.
you talked about a bunch of positives about women being in and coming in. So let's touch on like things that might be a little negative. Like I'm sure we have scales, right? So whenever, if you're a fourth period woman or man, fourth period are getting paid fourth period. There's a chance the company can pay you over, but like, let's say like on layoffs, if you ever like caught yourself being the woman, be like, oh, you're on the first layoff. Not them saying that, but do you have that feeling that maybe this layoff, or maybe, oh man, you don't get the phone call on the next job, like, all 5 of the last guys you work with got a call for the next one, but you didn't get the call? Or is there anything like that you see that you feel like is because you're a woman, or is it all positive?
No, it's definitely not all positive. That's for sure. It is definitely very hard for women in our industry. It's very beneficial if you can hang, but it's very hard. Just so everyone knows, fourth period and stuff like that, we have an apprenticeship. So you have to go through like a trade school.
That is the difference between union and non-union
Yes.
as well.
Right.
But I have been fortunate for myself to not necessarily have to have gone through or been on very many of like the first layoffs. I can kind of give myself that. I take a little bit of pride in that myself. I have not. I have, though, had where I've worked with people before, and I have not been called back with that crew, whether I have not been laid off on the first layoff or whatnot. I've actually made it through the entire job to the very, very end of the job. But the next one I was not called for. It is what it is. It comes with it, unfortunately, sometimes.
Woman or man.
Woman or a man. I mean, I've known plenty of people that do not get called back at all, regardless. Not with that company whatsoever.
Right.
But yes, I do know of quite a few women that have not had that luxury. They are the first ones off. They do not get called back. Sometimes they may get red flagged. sometimes they may get blackballed. I mean, I have been blackballed myself. It happens. Like you may not get along with everybody. And because you may not get along with them or you don't fit in with their clique, you won't last long.
Right.
But I'm not that one. I don't have to be a part of your clique in order for me to work. There's other companies out there. But that's the mind frame that you have to have in order to continue to go with this trade is you're a union millwright. You're not loyal to, you don't have to be loyal to one company. You work for everybody.
Right.
If you want money and you're hungry, you go and you find a contractor and you go and work. You don't have to just wait and rely on that one person to call you.